Hi, I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper from Are You Ready Radio and the Zombie Outpost. In this series of Tips from the Bunker, Series 3, we're going to be talking about some very covert advantages that you could have when it comes to personal protection and self-defense. So stick around. Okay, so if you've watched one of my past episodes that I did, or past videos that I put out there about personal protection and self-defense, we talked a lot about stun guns and pepper spray, batons, caltrops, and all that. So make sure you check that out. This one's going to go a little bit beyond that into certain everyday objects that you may have on you, carry on you, and even just some of the creative ways of maybe thinking about what's around you in your environment to help protect yourself should you find yourself in a vulnerable situation and need a slight advantage over someone that means to do you harm. So, one thing that we always pretty much have on us is keys. Now, a lot of times you may hear things where they say, "Oh yeah, a key is a great defense weapon. You put the key between your fingers and you stab and you jab and you have something to gouge your eyeballs out with." Well, this could be a very cumbersome and also dangerous thing to you in your hands. Think about it. Trying to keep a key like that or having that impact, it could break fingers, and maybe that works. Me, when it comes to using your keys as a defense weapon, I prefer to hold the thickest part and have some sort of nice pivot point and all that on it, so that very easy thing to do is almost works like a little tiny little pair of nunchucks with a lot of very sharp metal barbs. Could be very distracting and disorienting to anybody that you strike with it. And the other thing that keys give you advantage of, it leaves a very unique fingerprint behind if something were to happen to you, because you're always touching them. And the key has a very unique signature to property that you own, that you keep protected. So sometimes, the other thing is key fob, panic button. If your vehicle is within reach of it transmitting to it, it will also attract attention. I also want to talk about the flashlight. A flashlight like this is great. This is a tactical flashlight, as they call it. It has little arm brake barbs there. It has a couple different modes, including strobe. Just a flashlight in general is enough to disorient someone from a distance and blind them out for you to get away. All these are designed to give you an advantage over someone that means to do you harm. And the main point of this one is to share with you some alternatives if you live in an area where, we'll say, stun guns, pepper spray, batons, and all that may be illegal or against the law, or there may be local ordinances against them. These are alternatives to help you stay protected. And on a flashlight like this, and they call it tactical flashlight because it's very high powered. It has a zoom in, zoom out. It has 3 different modes, strobe being one of them. It also has a rescue signal that it will send out. And the arm brake here, which if you watch the self-defense episode with self-defense devices that I posted before this, you'll see how the arm brake actually works. Again, a very handy, helpful tool. It also gives you an advantage if you want to hit someone, strike someone. Again, it's a flashlight. It's not a weapon. These are devices that you may have on you at any given point in a situation that you can't say, well, they were carrying a weapon on them and it's against the law when you're trying to defend yourself. And if you look around the table, there's some very interesting objects here, which I'm going to get to. The other one is this tactical pen, which you saw in the previous segment, how it's a striking instrument. It's also a pen that writes. However, maybe it's not meant, maybe you don't intend or you never bought it with the intention of using it as a defense device, but because it has a rescue tool on it and it's a pen. So maybe you work in an office or maybe you keep it in your car. It's a rescue tool. It has a glass break on it. It's perfect. And there's a very interesting one, chopsticks. I know. I always have chopsticks on me. Two main reasons. They are a great self-defense device. The other is that typically when I order Chinese food somewhere and they never include enough chopsticks, I can't eat Chinese food without chopsticks. So a pair of chopsticks like this, you can't go wrong. You have something to eat food with. It's also a great prepper survival thing because you never want to touch food if you're in a survival situation with your hands, just out of hygiene. But also, you now have two very direct items to strike at someone and keep them away from you. Chopsticks, it's not a weapon. So again, everyday devices that you may have on your person. I'm going to tell you some funny stories about some of the other things that you see on the table. But I also want to talk about a general newspaper or even a magazine. If you have a newspaper and you're walking around town, this does not look like a weapon. However, to make it a weapon, with a couple simple folds and a roll, you now have a very blunt object to keep someone away from you. Look at this. That is going to hurt someone. Coming at them with something as simple as, and they're not going to find it so funny, the comics. So simply taking this as if you're making a little model airplane and rolling it over, you now have something to concentrate a great amount of force and keep someone at bay if they mean you harm. And this is just a newspaper. You can comic section them, sports section, life and arts, business, stock exchange. You're going to rearrange their headlines for that day with something as simple as a newspaper. One thing that someone I knew in college always did, and we'd walk to work every day, Sid, he never drank coffee. But he always used to stop at the bodega as soon as we got out of the dorm, and he'd get a cup of coffee, and he'd walk around with a cup of hot coffee. And when he got to school, he just kind of said, hey, I got you coffee. Just some random person walking by. He never drank the coffee. I was kind of the same way. I never drank coffee either. But I asked him, I said, why do you always carry around a cup of coffee? And he explained to me, he goes, oh, it's just in case someone tries to mess with me, just keep it clean. And this way I can just dump it in their face and get away. He would stop, even in the winter. Sometimes he had to get 2 cups of coffee because it was a 20-block walk from the dorm to the college. And he would sit there, make sure the coffee's always nice and hot, and he walked around with a coffee cup so that if anything were to happen, he'd just dump it in their face, burn them, and he'd have time to get away. I'm like, that is a cool idea. I'm going to remember that. Now, I want to move on to some other things here, and this is something that this lady that lives in my neighborhood we're talking about once, and she's not able to get a concealed carry permit to carry a firearm. She's not allowed to own a firearm, but yet she feels very vulnerable because she works very late hours at her job. So, of course, I understand that. I told her, I said, carry around a shopping bag with either lemon juice or wasp and hornet killer in a shopping bag. And I said, when you're walking around, if you always have that on you, it's as if you just went shopping. Well, a couple things that this works for. First of all is the initial strike of the momentum from that item, okay? The other thing is, this is almost better than pepper spray, because this gives you about 22 feet according to the label. And if you want to keep someone away from you, spraying them with wasp and hornet killer is great. Now, another thing that I've had some fun with is actually walking around with a stick. I am, if you haven't seen any of the other videos, maybe you saw the intro, obviously, if you're watching this by now, but just a simple bow staff, and you can do this with a cane, an umbrella, or anything. Having something to keep, even if you're not trained in it, something to keep distance, jab, or even pair someone away from you. Just something that gives you the advantage. If it's a cane, a pair of crutches, a walking stick, staff like this, or anything, I have a couple things that I may have. This belt, for example. This is a belt knife, kind of like the pen and comb knives. And the cool thing about this, it's actually a tool. This could be on you and no one really knows you have it. Anything, your belt, for example, speaking of belts, your belt is another great example of a personal protection device that you can use. And the reason why I normally have my firearm in the inside of the pants, either on this side or back here, and sometimes here, depending on where I am, what I'm doing, and what I'm wearing, is so that I can remove my belt if I'm not wearing this belt knife, okay? I can remove my belt without my firearm coming off of it. So a belt, when you take it off, you now have something to strike and swing at someone if you need it. The buckle of your belt can be very helpful to defend yourself against an attacker. Same thing with things like umbrellas and many other things out there. Look around, be aware of your surroundings so that you know when you may be in danger, be ready to act to protect yourself, and also take a look around at what may be in your environment if you don't so happen to have something. Be familiar with what you have on your body, how useful it is. You can be walking down a road and there may be a pipe, a stick, a brick, a rock, something that will give you the slight advantage over someone else to help protect you. So I hope that I helped you prepare and seriously think and answer the question, are you ready? I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper from Are You Ready Radio and the Zombie Outpost. Until next time, check out our social media, all the links, and comment, follow, and if you have a topic that you want me to cover, you have questions, feel free to send them. I'd love to answer them. Until next time.